the Normandy-Neiman Squadron, dedicated to the courageous French flyers of the Normandy-Neiman Squadron. They fought together with Soviet people against their common enemy, Hitlerism. They were not many, but they symbolized a brotherhood in arms. The participation of your air regiment in the battles against the Hitlerites was an important contribution to the struggle for liberation, Leonid Brezhnev told the Normandy-Neiman veterans. Wing to wing. Screenplay, Nikolai Levitsky and Boris Tolchinsky. Direction, Nikolai Levitsky. Military consultants, Air Force Major General Zakharov, Air Force Major General Golubov, Engineer Colonel Agavilyan. Photography, Yuri Artemonov and Nikolai Sergeyev. Leningrad Scientific Film Studios. Attention.
Regroupement sur altitude 3000. Vitesse 500. Cap sur
Regrouping at 3000 altitude. Speed 500. Direction, Spas-Demensk. Attention, Durand. Check your guns. I got you, Commander. I see Focke-Wulfs coming. Each take on one. Got you, Commander.
Oui, ça a été notre premier engagement.
That was the first battle, the first contribution to our struggle, our first victory. In that first battle of April the 5th, 1943, Albert Durand and Albert Perziosi shot down two enemy planes. Major Toulan shot down a third. And the fourth was downed by Durand.
Mais les Allemands n'en démordaient pas. De toute évidence, ils
But the Germans did not retreat. Evidently, they wanted to teach a good lesson to us Frenchmen, who, vanquished in 1940, dared to fight again, and what's more, under the Soviet banner.
du côté des soviets. Première victoire, mais aussi première
The
perte.
first victories and the first painful losses.
Nous avons perdu
3 of our friends were killed in air battles over Spas-Demensk, Poznansky, Bisienne, and Derville.
Mais,
Tears blind us, but our motto is victory or death.
la mort même ne pourrait arrêter notre marche vers la victoire.
Я хорошо знаю этих людей.
I knew them well.
Товарищам и мне
Both my comrades and I went into many a fight together with them.
участвовать в боях с фашизмом. Хотя они плохо знали русский.
Their Russian was as poor as our French, but we understood each other well because we have a common purpose, to defeat the enemy as soon as possible.
Громить врага. Это смелые люди, не ведавшие страха.
They were courageous men, fearless in battle. They fought 869 air battles and destroyed 273 enemy planes.
Они знали, за что
They knew what
сражались.
they were fighting for.
Их чувства ясно выразил герой Советского
Their feelings were clearly expressed by Marcel Lefebvre, hero of the Soviet Union.
Союза. Свою поруганную
We left our
родину.
desecrated motherland to return only as victors.
Только победить.
There is no other way for us.
Иного пути у нас нет. Каждый из них по-своему
Each one of them achieved his dream of fighting on the Soviet-German front in the squadron of fighting France in his own way.
сражающейся Франции. Такой частью была эскадрилья Нормандии.
This was the Normandy Squadron, named after the province which had suffered most from the German invasion.
От гитлеровских полчищ. Имя Нормандия
The name Normandy sounded as a call to France's sons to avenge their desecrated land.
из разных углов.
They came to join the Normandy Squadron from different corners of the earth.
Майор Жан Тюлян
Major Jean Toulon arrived from the Rayak Air Base in the Middle East. He was the Normandy's first commander, a death-defying flyer.
Заместитель Тюляна
Captain Litov, second in command, came from England with 10 victories on his personal record. His motto was,
его
if you haven't given your all, you have given
если
nothing.
не отдано все. Капитан Жозеф
Captain
Рисо,
Joseph Risseau, one of France's finest aces, escaped from Spain by signing up as a stevedore on a merchant ship.
лейтенант Альберт,
Second Lieutenant Albert Durand,
лейтенант Марсель,
Lieutenant Marcel Lefebvre,
лейтенант Марсель.
Lieutenant Marcel Albert.
Эти три мушкетера
These 3 musketeers, as they were called, staged an attack during a training flight over Oran airfield and disappeared, leaving the Petain officers speechless with amazement.
от изумления петеновских офицеров исчезли. Этот человек командовал эскадрильей.
This man commanded a squadron in Hanoi.
решений.
Braving innumerable difficulties and privations, he made his way to China, crossed the Pacific, the American continent, the Atlantic,
Острова,
the British Isles, and finally joined the Normandy Squadron.
имя его.
His name is Major Pierre Pouillade.
Рассказывать о Пьере Пуяде.
In telling of Pierre Pouillade, we must tell of all those flyers who tried to reach the Soviet Union from North Africa, England, Madagascar, and the Middle East.
Ближнего Востока. Это значит говорить.
We must tell of France's former track and field champion and future hero of the Soviet Union, Jacques André,
André. О 20-летнем
and of 20-year-old ace Roland de la Pouyape, also future hero of the Soviet Union.
Это значит говорить.
We must speak of Louis Delfinot, a real combat commander and splendid flyer.
отличном летчике. Это значит.
We must tell of the fearless Maurice Dessin, who brought down 2 Nazi planes over France. Maurice refused to obey orders from traitors and fled from Paris.
Военный мундир и бежал из Парижа. Рассказывая о Пьере
The
Пуяде,
story of Pierre Pouillade is the story of each of these French patriots, these indomitable knights of air combat.
какая сила управляла их поступками?
What was the motive force behind their actions? What drew these men, with their different social background, to a foreign country? What made them fight and die on foreign soil?
Чужую страну, преодолевая лишения и невзгоды. Идти в огонь войны и умирать на чужой земле. Что заставило их так поступать?
Was it their sense of duty to their country? Patriotism? Internationalism?
Интернационализм.
Yes. All this put together and made into one whole by their passionate devotion to France.
Объединенная страстной любовью к своей родине. Именно это чувство и вело...
It was this that led them into battle and brought them victory.
Aujourd'hui, on nous a chargé de bloquer l'aérodrome.
Today we raid the airfield at Sesha together with the Russians, and in the meantime, their bombers will attack the Germans' airfields.
Ce combat s'est terminé aussi vite qu'il avait commencé.
This battle was over quickly.
Le commandant
Have a
Tulan
cigarette,
en
comrade,
profite
Major
pour
Tulan
dire
said to a Russian
ce
captain.
capitaine russe. Une sèche, volontiers
Thanks,
pilote.
the captain replied.
Bientôt, tout
We
le-
others also had a smoke. After that, we had a game of Monopoly, and as we played, we tried to figure out when we could have some Marseille fish chowder or Paris steaks with new potatoes.
et on s'enlise un peu en de discussions savantes.
We had a long and boring discussion on the comparative merits of French and Russian wines.
Durant cette même entracte,
In that same intermission, we met Anatoly Golubov, commander of the 18th Guards Regiment.
cet homme,
This man defeated death itself.
ça n'arrivera qu'un peu plus tard.
This happened later, in the fighting for Belorussia.
Au cours de la poursuite d'un Messer,
Flying low in pursuit of a Messerschmitt, Golubov's plane was hit
à la
and
suite
caught
d'un
fire.
tir bien ajusté de l'Allemand.
Golubov reduced the
Avec des
speed,
gaz,
threw open the cockpit bubble, and bailed out.
et ensuite sauté de l'avion qui flambait déjà comme une torche.
He bounced along the treetops for more than 200 meters, fell into a swamp,
Encore
and lost
inconscient,
consciousness.
encore roulé quelques 200 mètres sur les fêtes des arbres. En guise d'au revoir, il nous a dit...
In that split second before he crashed to the ground, he mentally addressed his own boys and his French friends, begging them not to grieve over him and promising to come back to the ranks soon.
Et alors ils verront de quel bois je me chauffe. Au bout de 6 mois,
He returned to the regiment from hospital in 6 months' time.
c'était à pleurer que de le voir se traîner.
It was heartbreaking to see him hobbling across the airfield, leaning heavily on a stick. He looked as if he had been assembled from odd parts.
Il était avec nous jusqu'au dernier jour.
He remained with us till victory. From him we learned fortitude.
Lui ont valu notre plus profond respect. Depuis notre première visite,
On our first joint mission, we met Golubov's comrades, flyers from the 18th Guards Regiment. Nikolai Pinchuk, Vasily Barsukov, Ivan Zamorin,
Simeon Seberin,
Semyon Sibirin,
Vassili Seberin.
Vasily Seryogin.
Bien souvent nous volions de concert.
We often went into action with them and always admired their Russian spunk and their skill.
Si propre aux Russes. Un jour, nous recevions chez nous un
General Georgy Zakharov, commander of the 303rd Fighter Division, arrived one day.
Division de chasseurs. Il a eu son baptême du feu.
He had fought in Spain
bien avant
and in
cette
China.
guerre. Un bon nombre de combats en Espagne et en
Our Normandy was part of his division, and together we traversed the distance from Moscow to East Prussia.
jusqu'à la Prusse orientale. Fraternité.
As for the Russian ground crew, we were friends from the start. They were our guardian angels. they were always with us, and they did everything in their power to bring us back from our missions safe and sound.
Ils faisaient tout leur possible pour assurer la sécurité parfaite de nos vols.
You ought to have seen their faces, their happy smiles, when we told them how the battle went. They rejoiced in our victories more than we did ourselves.
Leur maîtrise professionnelle était vraiment extraordinaire.
They certainly knew their job too. Once on return to base, I told Sergei Agavelian, our chief engineer, that I had engine trouble during flight. He thought for a moment and said, "We'll check it, Monsieur Lieutenant. If necessary, we'll change the engine and it won't take us more than a night." I thought he was joking, but when I came to the airfield next morning, I found the mechanics testing the new engine. In our leisure hours, we had long talks, and they told us how homesick they were for their country and their families. Mother, do any of our friends happen to have a French grammar? I need it badly. When I come back, I'll tell you all about my friend who's been through a lot. He went practically around the world in order to get here. He's now fighting the Germans with us here. And before that, he fought them in France. He and I are bound together for life. In our spare time, he teaches me French, and I teach him Russian. Mother, I call him philosopher. He awaits my return as impatiently as you do, Mother. But I return to him more often than I return to you. Sometimes more than once or twice a day. In this, I've been lucky so far. In my sleep, I see you and Claude. And he knows neither sleep nor rest. While I sleep, he does everything for my next safe return. He's a top-notch flyer and a wonderful chap. The great battle of the Kursk-Urol Bulge has begun. Our small Normandy is doing its share in the battle for Urol. Air battles follow one after the other. Everyone is dead beat. But still our Russian friends have not forgotten that this is the 14th of July, our national holiday. They treated us to a gorgeous dinner and a concert besides. And Pouillade, Albert, and Castellane each shot down an enemy plane in celebration. These days, we practically lived in our planes. The strain was terrible, but we were in high spirits. The fighting was hard and furious. The battle reached its climax on the 17th of July. Under the command of Jean Toulin, we attacked a large enemy bomber formation. Jean Toulin and then Pouillade each shot down a plane. Before our commander could look down at the plummeting bomber, he was attacked by 4 messers.
l'aéronef de Tulan, par une parade rapide.
Tulan's yak knifed through the group like a harpoon.
Il ne verra plus jamais.
He'll never see the blue sky again, our Tulan. Nor will Litolf, Castellan, Bournavon, and de Tedesco.
Et demain,
And tomorrow,
qui le tour de
whose turn will it be?
Тюлян любил небо как
Tulan loved the sky as life itself. He was a real eagle.
летящий орел.
Je me rappelle très bien.
Well do I remember July the 17th, 1943. It was a difficult day. We made flight after flight, battle after battle.
Les missions,
Our
les
Tulan
combats
wanted the French pilots to fly as many missions as the Soviet.
Tulan tenait absolument que les pilotes français fassent autant de missions.
When he found out that our comrades from the 18th Guards Regiment already had 6 flights each against our 5, he went and demanded that we too should be sent out once more.
Alors que nous n'avions effectué de 5, alors sa seule réflexion a été alors qu'est-ce qu'on attend pour nous faire faire la 6e? Au cours de la bataille d'Orel,
During the air battle over Orel, we shot down 17 enemy planes within a few days. But 6 of our flyers never returned to base. One of them was Jean Tulan.
Как только стало известно о гибели
As soon as we learned of the death of the Normandy commander, I flew over to our friends. I advised them to drop their customary individual tactics. It didn't pay when facing large formations.
подобная тактика не оправдывает себя, когда в воздухе встречаются большие группы самолетов. Главное в
The
современном
main thing in modern aerial warfare was mutual support and collective action.
После гибели Жана Тюляна
After the death of Jean Tulan, Major Pierre Pouade became the Normandy commander.
Je crois, moi, qu'il n'y a rien
There's
de plus
probably
monotone
nothing more
que le
monotonous
pilote
than the life of a wartime pilot.
mange à
You
la
get up,
parte,
eat,
se batte ou ne se
take
batte
off,
pas, rentre
engage in battle or perhaps not, get shot down or not.
ressemble
All the days are as alike as peas in a pod.
Attention.
Attention, cover Yelna. Heinkus together with Focke-Wulfs. Cover Yelna.
l'ennemi est supérieur en nombre.
Although outnumbered, our boys are doing their damnedest to carry out the order. Joseph Risseau and his pals set fire to 3 enemy planes. The Germans downed 2 of ours. One more battle behind us. Our ranks are thinning, but such is war.
C'est la guerre. Ils sont venus de Stalingrad.
They came from Stalingrad.
C'est une grande joie.
They were full of cheer and confidence in victory. They told us about the Battle of Stalingrad and the staunchness of their people.
Le courage de leur peuple. Écoutant les récits de ceux de Stalingrad,
as we listened to their stories and observed the life about us, we began to appreciate what titanic effort must have cost the Soviet government to rally the entire population of such a multinational state to fight the aggressors.
dans la lutte contre l'agresseur.
Летчикам Нормандии
The Normandy flyers did not take part in the Stalingrad battle, but how they wished they had.
как они мечтали поколотить этих блицкриговцев.
How they wanted to lick Paulus's 6th Army, the very army that in 1940 had invaded France, sowing death and devastation.
Вторглась во Францию. Как хотели они сразиться.
How they wanted to do battle with those arrogant conquerors to prove that France had not been brought to heel by the Nazis.
Фашистскому сапогу. Помешало правительство.
But they were prevented by the Vichy government that had betrayed France and sold her to Hitler.
Они не поспели в
The
Сталинград.
Battle of Stalingrad was over before they could arrive.
Уже после войны
They came there after the war to pay tribute to the memory of the Stalingraders who fell in battle for the freedom of nations.
Nous survolons Smolensk.
We are flying over Smolensk. The Nazis still occupy the town.
Dans cette bagarre sur Smolensk,
In that battle over Smolensk, we shot down 5 enemy planes, but we lost Balka, Joseph Risseau's mate.
de Joseph Risseau. La vengeance est un plat qu'il faut servir chaud.
Revenge is a dish you must eat hot, Risseau said after destroying 2 Nazis in one battle.
Les Russes ont libéré Smolensk.
The Russians have recaptured Smolensk. That's wonderful news.
L'espoir commence à flotter.
There's hope now that everything will go forward quickly. We'll see Paris soon, our own Paris, with its Seine, its boulevards, and tiny bistros.
Les boulevards, les bistrots. En novembre 1943,
In November 1943, the Normandy flyers came to Moscow. The Soviet command recalled the squadron so it could be replenished and the men could enjoy a furlough.
les yeux grands ouverts,
This world was new to us, and we stared and marveled.
si peu familier. Les plus baratineurs d'entre nous,
Even the most talkative among us were speechless. Words failed us, and our hearts missed a beat.
la guerre sévit toujours, et tout le monde se tord un effort surhumain. Ici, Bolshoi,
War raged all round. Everything living was strained to the breaking
le
point.
scintillement des luttes,
And here, in the Bolshoi Theater, we found a world of beautiful movements and music, sparkling chandeliers and tranquility. We saw scenes from a world that one would think was gone forever. Our holiday is over. Goodbye, Moscow. We're off to Tula.
Tula.
I remember everything connected with Tula as if it were yesterday and not 30 years ago. We spent 6 months there, protecting the town from the air and breaking in new flyers. We old-timers had to work pretty hard, Marcel Lefebvre especially. He trained 18 of our boys for the new fighter planes. They had their setbacks too, of course. There were unfortunate landings when planes were damaged, and there were fatal accidents too. But our boys continued undaunted and could barely wait for their frontline missions. Roland de la Poulapier, hero of the Soviet Union, has other cares nowadays. He is busy studying the behavior of dolphins, for whom he always had a soft spot. His dolphin pool is one of the largest in Europe. Later, Roland and I recalled that thrilling frosty day in Tula when Generals Shimanov, Lewandowicz and Ernest Petit arrived at the airfield to decorate the Normandy flyers with Soviet and French orders. Those were unforgettable minutes. General Shimanov gave me the Order of the Red Banner, and General Petit the Order of the Legion of Honor. At the end of May 1944, the Normandy renewed its frontline assignments.
Снова вылетает на фронт.
Attention, entering combat zone. Remember the trigger and sights. Yes, my commander, and I'll try to keep awake.
Cap sur Vitebsk.
We headed for Vitebsk. It's still in German hands. There's nothing suspicious in the sky. Everything's going well.
On tient l'air depuis plus d'une demi-heure.
We've been flying for more than 30 minutes. I wish there was something to get my teeth into. Cover me while I reduce altitude. I'm in trouble.
Qu'est-ce qu'il y a, mon commandant?
What's wrong, my commander?
Essence. Ça coule à flot.
Sprayed with petrol. I'm landing.
Lefebvre.
Lefebvre wanted to make base at any cost. What luck we were at 4,000 meters. He's already released his landing gear.
Il fait déjà sortir le train d'atterrissage.
The landing shields.
Venir à la rescousse.
The Russians swoop to our assistance.
Lefebvre procède à l'atterrissage.
Lefebvre is coming in. Everything looks all right.
Mais qu'est-ce qui se passe?
What's that?
Il vient d'ouvrir l'habitacle. Soudain,
He opened the cockpit and flared up like a torch.
Lefebvre
He was immediately flown to a Moscow hospital. Major Delfino accompanied him.
l'accompagne. Quelques jours plus tard,
A few days later, Marcel Lefebvre, hero of the Soviet Union, died in the arms of his friend, Louis Delfino.
Louis Delfino. Le héros a bien mérité.
And as if in answer to the death of a hero, thousands of guns roared down the entire front line from Vitebsk to Orsha.
Mon chéri, ma petite. Ici,
Dear wife and darling daughter, it's spring here.
l'avenir semble tout près, à portée de la main. Un avenir
I want to shout for joy. Tomorrow seems quite near. A wonderful tomorrow with lovely flowers, fields of ripening wheat, and the sun shining brightly in a clear sky.
est encore un nouveau pas sur le chemin de notre rencontre. Pour moi,
For you, spring means another step bringing our meeting near. For me, it means a great battle, the dawn of a glorious, radiant victory. For me, this spring means a gleaming sword that will strike down the Nazi invaders.
Dans la bataille pour la Biélorussie,
In the fighting for Belarusia, we were again with the flyers from Golubov's Guards Regiment.
В битвах за Белоруссию летчики Нормандии
In the battles for Belarusia, the Normandy and the 18th Guards fought together like brother regiments.
в ходе сражения французские
In these battles, both the French and the Soviet flyers increased their personal scores.
в жарких воздушных боях
The men who distinguished themselves especially were Pierre Pouillade, Semyon Sibirin, Nikolai Pinchuk, Jacques André, and Vasily Serogin.
Серегин.
I'll be damned if I know which of the Germans was such a good shot. My yak got a dose of lead. I decided to land at the first field I came to. I strained back in my seat with all my might. I hope the belts hold. Otherwise, my face will smash into the instrument panel.
Elles tiennent, bravo.
Hooray! I'm to keep my elegant profile. The belts are all right.
Bientôt, moi, comme tous les autres, je retrouve.
Shortly afterwards, I, like everyone else, was given a new fighter plane, Yak 3.
Chacun de nous remercie en
Before that, it was the Yak 9. Mentally, each one of us blessed Yakovlev for designing this excellent fighter plane, which was better than any of the Germans. With craft like that, we'd soon see the end of the war.
Oui. La fin de la guerre n'est plus loin.
The end of the war was in sight.
Les Parisiens insurgés.
On the 25th of August, the insurgent citizens of Paris and the resistance liberated our capital. A staggering piece of news.
Les Russes nous embrassent et nous félicitent.
Our Russian friends hugged us and rejoiced together with us. Agavilian ordered a salvo. Everyone and everything fired.
Maman,
Tout comme toi, mon philosophe est sûr de notre victoire.
Mother, my philosopher is as confident as I am that we shall soon defeat the Germans, and I now present Belazub to you. His name is easily translated into French. It means a white tooth, as different from descend, which cannot be translated into Russian.
Nous changeons à nouveau d'aérodrome.
We are moving to another airfield, closer to East Prussia. Hello, descent. What's wrong? Answer. Commander, there's a leak in my fuel pipe.
Pourquoi atterrissez-vous pas?
Why don't you land then? Hurry and land.
Je ne vois rien.
I can't see a thing for the fumes.
Je l'ordonne.
I order you, jump.
Sautez, sautez.
Jump, you hear? I can't. Mechanic Belazub has no parachute.
Le commandant Delfino.
Major Delfino understands everything.
La vie de Descend
Descend's life
ne lui
does not
appartient
belong to
plus.
him any longer.
Allô, Dessé. Allô, Dessé.
Hello, Descend. This is Agavilian speaking. Jump. The commander orders you to jump. Jump on the commander's orders.
Mais Maurice de Seine luttait avec acharnement.
But Maurice de Seine will not give up the fight for his friend's life, and again tries to land his plane.
Maurice aurait pu sauver sa vie. Mais
My
il a
son
préféré
might have lived,
agir d'homme
but he acted as honor bid him. If he had to die,
mourir.
I would not wish him to die
Nous n'aurions
otherwise.
pas souhaité une mort différente. Nos deux peuples doivent œuvrer pour le but commun. Pour
Our
la
two
cause
nations
commune
must work
de
for one aim,
fraternité.
the aim of brotherhood and mutual understanding, which will unite them for the achievement of peace.
Pour essayer
What could
de
be better than
préserver la
peace?
paix, ce bien suprême des hommes.
Герой Советского Союза
Jacques André, here of the Soviet Union, became a horticulturalist after the war.
стал цветоводом.
Les fleurs, c'est la joie même.
Flowers mean peace and joy.
Bien sûr.
Let us all grow flowers.
30 лет назад он
30 years ago, he too loved flowers,
больше любил
but he loved freedom more.
свободу.
Les jours qui ont marqué le début de l'offensive.
I particularly remember those days when the Red Army launched its offensive against East Prussia.
Nous avions tous
We all felt as if we were going into the final battle.
à une dernière offensive. À nos côtés combattaient les
We fought side by side with the famous aces from the 18th Guards Regiment, Pinchuk, Repikhov, and Seryogin.
Dans la première journée de l'offensive,
On the first day of the offensive, October 16th, we flew 100 missions and got 29 enemy planes without losing a single one of our own. The Guards got the same number.
on abattit autant. Le 17 octobre, nous avons abattu
On the 17th, our score was 12 enemy planes, 12 on the 18th and 11 on the 20th.
Les journées qui suivirent se ressemblèrent comme deux gouttes d'eau.
In the days that followed, our routine was always the same. Takeoff, combat, back to base, a cup of tea and a cigarette while the mechanic checked the machine, and take off again.
Une route éperdue vers l'horizon noir.
Les Allemands se
The
défendent.
Germans fought with savage fury. Every hole in the ground was a machine gun nest. Every clearing was a mine. Every house was a stronghold. Soviet troops had to force 6 lines of permanent defense, and the main one along the Niemen. They did it. General Chernyakhovsky's forces broke through the enemy's defenses along the Niemen and liberated Lithuania. Our squadron was now called the Normandy Niemen. 2 of our men, Marcel Albert and Roland de la Pouillapé, were awarded the titles of Hero of the Soviet Union. The war shifted to enemy territory. The end was already in sight. We'd be home soon, home at last. The Soviet government invited us to Moscow, where General de Gaulle had arrived, bringing French orders and medals. We were very proud and pleased to see our Soviet comrades being decorated.
Il a dit, la fraternité d'armes.
Brotherhood in arms, said General de Gaulle, cemented on the battlefield, makes a reliable earnest of friendship between our 2 nations.
Les festivités moscovites n'ont duré.
The holiday in Moscow was soon over. It only lasted 3 days.
Bon nombre de nous sont repartis en France. Pierre Pouillade.
Many of our flyers had gone. Pierre Pouillade, Marcel Albert, Roland de la Pouillapé, Joseph Risseau, and
Ils ont
others.
vécu en Russie plus de 2 années.
After more than 2 years in Russia, they went home to liberated France.
Delfino,
Lieutenant Colonel Delfino was appointed commander.
ces jours-ci nous nous battons sans répit.
Those last days, there were continuous dogfights. Today, together with the Russians, we are to besiege Königsberg, a pretty hard nut to crack, that.
L'aviation allemande met tous
The
ses
German Air Force is making a desperate effort to weaken our attacks. Jacques, don't let him go. He's yours. I see him, Commander. Pignon, look out. Watch your tail. Closer, Iribarn. Closer. Well done, Saint Marceau. Congratulations.
Dans les combats au-dessus de Königsberg.
In the dogfights over Königsberg, our squadron destroyed 28 enemy planes.
Sont tombés de la mort des braves, nos compagnons
Our comrades in arms, Pignon, Miquel, Jeunesse, Menu, Palmverne, and Iribarn, died a hero's death.
Nous partons stationner à Friedland.
We now had our base in Friedland, a step closer to the end of the war. This was a big day for us. The Soviet government has decorated our squadron with the Order of the Military Red Banner.
Le commandant de la première armée de l'air, le général Krukin,
First Air Army Commander General Krukin pinned the orders to our colors. The Red Army has already liberated many countries in Europe and is headed for Berlin. The Normandy Niemen is flying wing to wing with the 303rd Division for a fresh, decisive assault on Königsberg.
Принесенные нами во имя свободы и независимости нашей Родины, неисчислимые лишения и страдания.
The great sacrifices laid on the altar of our motherland for her liberty and independence, the countless trials and privations suffered by the people in those years, and the tremendous war effort at home and on the front line were not in vain. They were crowned with victory over the enemy.
La guerre est finie. Sensation
The war is over. Chief Air Force Marshal Novikov congratulated us and presented us with Soviet orders.
Nous adresse ses félicitations et remet à nos camarades de hautes distinctions de l'URSS. Le jour de notre départ est venu.
The day came for us to leave.
Tout le monde sombre dans la tristesse.
It was a difficult day. We were parting with our comrades in arms, the Russian flyers, and with our mechanics.
Les pilotes russes et nos mécaniciens. C'est avec peine.
Even the cheeriest of us could hardly force a smile. And then General Lewandowicz announced the staggering news that we were to fly home in our yaks. The Soviet government was presenting them to the French flyers. General Petit addressed us just before takeoff. Flyers of the Normandy, he said, I thank you and your courageous Soviet comrades. By virtue of your valor and skill, strong bonds of friendship and brotherhood have been forged between you. Bon voyage.
Bon voyage à vous tous.
Они возвращаются домой.
They were going home to life and happiness.
Мы навсегда сохраним память о них, о живых.
We shall always remember them, the living and the dead. We shall carry the memory in our hearts.